Welcome back to the Pals and Pearls podcast. I'm your host, Peter Kay. I hope you are doing well. And if it's your first time tuning into an episode, hello and welcome. I hope you're having a good week so far. And if you're not having a good week, then I hope that this episode will add a bit of light, love, laughter, get you thinking, or just add something positive to your week. I am still nasally, still sick. If you've never listened to an episode, I don't normally sound like this. My voice is normally a lot better, but I've just been in the trenches the last 2 weeks. I don't know. I thought I had a cold, but the fact that I'm still sick 2 weeks later, I don't know what I have, but it's definitely more than the common cold, and it's just taken me a lot longer than I normally would to get better. But it is what it is. And I don't want to allow this to stop me because I'm already a week behind where I'd want to be. I wasn't able to post an episode last week, but I just thought, you know what, this episode, let's just do a chit chat. There's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, and also an announcement that I wanted to make as well. It feels like so long since the last episode that I don't even remember. Did I speak about Galentines on the last episode? I even need to go check. I don't even remember. Let me check. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the last episode I posted was early Feb. Oh, I'm just gonna go and double check actually. Okay. So we need to do event recap. So I've just double checked and I can see the last episode I posted was the 2nd of Feb. So this was before my Galentine's event. So yeah, I'm essentially 2 weeks behind because I've been sick. But I just thought, you know what? I can't wait until I'm better. Otherwise, it would be another week or so and I'll be like 3 weeks behind. On the 7th of Feb, I had my Galentine's Investing 101 session. So if you listen to my last episode, I think I did speak about it and just some of the challenges and struggles of planning the event on my own, and some of the difficulties I was having with the ticket sales, getting to a point where I felt like I was just going to cancel the event. But I'm so glad that I didn't cancel. And to be honest, towards the end of the week, coming up to the event, the ticket sales did increase, and I was at a point I was like, okay, it's fine. We will go ahead. The show will go on. But just looking back at the event and just thinking about the day and how it was, honestly, the event exceeded my expectations, especially thinking about, how I felt about it just 6, 7 days prior and getting to the day and just seeing how everything worked together and worked out. It's so crazy because at the beginning of the event, I had just kind of spoke a little bit to the ladies about why I decided to do this event, spoke a little bit about my own personal journey in investing. And for some reason, guys, I started crying. And it was so random because I'm like, why am I crying? Like, firstly, we don't want to waste this makeup. It was not free. And secondly, that was definitely not on my bingo card, me crying at my event. But I think just I don't know what it was. I know definitely it was the hormones, but I think also outside of the 30s hormones, I think it was because I don't know, maybe subconsciously, I was just thinking about remembering where I've come from to looking at where I am now and the trajectory of where I'm going. It was just an emotional moment. And again, I was not expecting it. I did not feel emotional leading up to that. So it was just very, yeah, it was definitely surreal. But the event worked out. I had a great time. For me, the biggest highlight was just seeing how engaged the ladies were and some of the questions that they asked. I could really see them taking it in. The questions were really, really good questions, actually. And ultimately, my aim of this event, I don't even know if I even said what the purpose of the event was. So let me go back a little bit. So the event that I hosted was my Galentine's Investing 101 session, and it was for ladies only. So this session was all about investing in the stock market. I spoke about the risk. I spoke about the stock market, how it works, different financial products, risk management, taxes, like all the key things you need to know as a new investor. But like I said, the event was just tailored to women because I wanted to have like a Galentine's event, but make it related to finances and just kind of make it fun. And I really wanted to present the stock market and investing in a way that wasn't too overwhelming, but also in a way that was relatable and fun. So that was ultimately my aim. I wanted the women to come away from this event feeling more comfortable and also knowing more than they knew going into the event. Because I think a lot of the times when it comes to investing, fear is one of the biggest things that stop people from starting, aside from the fact that many people think they just don't have enough to start. But fear is definitely a factor. And the overwhelm of just so much information, it can be difficult to know, okay, what should I be doing? And so I wanted the ladies to feel, empowered to take action, to feel informed to start. And looking at the feedback that I've received so far from the attendees, I am blown away. Like, the feedback was really good. And I'm excited to see, the ladies' journeys as they do start taking action and investing. So yeah, that was the event in a snapshot. But something I will be doing more of during this year is events, especially events tailored to investing. In the past, when I've done events, it's a lot of the time been focused on money management, as far as like budgeting, building your credit, working on your spending habits. But I haven't really had events in the past, except for this one, where I've just focused on growing your money. And I think where we are in the economy, as much as budgeting is important and managing your money is important, it is also very crucial for people to learn how to grow their money, because the rate of inflation, the rate of pay, and salary increases a lot of the time is not even exceeding inflation. Sometimes it's even less. And I think it's just so important to be savvy with your money, especially if you want to not only be able to just, pay your bills and get by, but if you do want to have more and you do desire better for yourself, then I just think it's just important really to be savvy with your money. And investing is one of the ways you can do that. So, yeah, this year I'm definitely going to be doing more events on investing. So, if you are based in London, I do have an event coming up in April. I'll talk more about that closer to the time. For now, just kind of like decompressing from the last event, but the next event will be on the second Saturday in April. I believe it's the 10th of April. Let me just double check, because sometimes I'll be mixing my days up. Yes, yes, the 10th. It's actually the 11th. So next event is on Saturday, the 11th of April, and that will be an in-person session talking about investing in the stock market. Only this session will be opened to men and women. I say all this to say that the stresses of planning was well worth it. And I'm just so grateful that it all worked together. The stress was worth it. And I think ultimately for me, the women coming away from this event, taking action and seeing results, for me, that's the biggest reward that I can ever gain. I have a couple of things written down, but one of the first things I wanted to dive into was just talking about social media. And I just think I've been thinking about this a lot more the last few days, about social media and our mental health, and how our usage of social media and how that impacts on how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about our lives. And I wanted to pose this question to you guys to know what you think. I want to know your thoughts. Do you think that social media is stealing our joy? The more and more I think about it, the more and more my answer is yes. I do think in many ways social media is stealing our joy, especially if you do use your social media excessively, if you use it a lot. It's such an addictive tool. It's something that you can naturally spend hours scrolling, going from one social media platform to the other without even realizing how much time you are spending on it. One of the things that I do have on my TikTok and my Instagram is I have a limit. So for TikTok, I have an hour limit. So whenever I approach that limit, it will let me know like you've got 10 minutes left. And sometimes when I get those reminders, it's like, oh wow, I've actually spent this much time on TikTok. I don't even realize it. And I set those reminders because once I exceed my daily limit, it gives me that prompt to recognize that, oh my gosh, like you have spent an hour today on this app. Do you want to spend more time? And I think it's just so easy to spend mindless time on social media without realizing how much time you're actually going into this world. And I think there's definitely many layers to this. And I think it's not a one size fits all. I don't think there's like a specific time period that is like a healthy amount, because again, you can be on social media for 5 minutes and it could be very unhealthy for you. And I guess you can be on it for hours and it might not necessarily impact you, depending on how you consume, what you're consuming, and I guess also the kind of person that you are. But I think in general, for most people, using social media for a long period of time on a daily basis is not going to be healthy. Going back to my question of, is social media stealing our joy? I think some of the ways it is stealing our joy is when you go into social media. Let's talk about Valentine's Day. It's Feb. It's still love month. But let's say, for example, you are in a relationship and it's Valentine's Day, and maybe your partner's gotten you a gift, or they've got you nothing, and you are okay with that. But then you go on to Instagram, TikTok, whatever, Facebook, whatever you're using, and then you are flooded with everything people are posting, the gifts they've received, the big bunch of roses, the nice gifts, the decorated hotel room. And then it's so easy for you then to look at what you're seeing, especially if it does look appealing, or it is something that you think, oh, that's really cute. Naturally, it's easy for you to then see that and start comparing, like, oh, okay, my my Valentine's was not much to write home about, or it wasn't as extravagant or beautiful or thoughtful or aesthetic as what I'm seeing. And it's easy to make those comparisons and to start, feeling less than. And I think one of the things that I've ultimately taken away for myself, and I would love to know you guys' thoughts on this, is that if you're going to be on social media, you need to ensure that you are in a good headspace. If you are going through a difficult moment, your mental health is not in a good place, utilizing social media it is not the best thing for you. Like, I would suggest, if you're going through it right now, or you're in a stage of your life where you feel behind, or things aren't working out how you hope, or you're going through something quite traumatic, it's probably best to stay off social media, because I think it's probably going to do more harm for you than good, especially if you're in a vulnerable place in your life, or you're in a space where you're not feeling confident within yourself, not feeling confident within the choices you are making or the direction that you're heading in. And I think you definitely need to be grounded within yourself. You need to be clear on who you are and what you want for yourself, because if you're not, you are going to be going through an emotional roller coaster the more and more that you are consuming content and being exposed to other people's lives. Now, for me personally, there's some things I would never share on social media. But for some people, they share pretty much every aspect of their life. And I just think at the end of the day, it's your life, it's your content, you can post whatever you like. But for me, I do think there needs to be some boundaries, and not everything needs to be content. Not everything needs to be shared. For me personally, if I'm going for a difficult moment, I'm not going to be crying in a video or on social media. Like, that's just not me. But I know for some people, there's no barrier. It's literally like, yeah, I'm real, I'm authentic, and you're gonna see all the things. But I do think there is something healthy about having some boundaries about what you will and will not post, what you will and will not show. And I don't think that makes you fake, or it means that you're pretending your life is perfect. At the end of the day, social media is supposed to be social. It doesn't have to be your online diary where you capture and show every single aspect of your life. And I think sometimes if you are someone that overshares, you're more likely to then, let's say a year or two from now, regret some of the content you've posted. It's probably better to not have that regret than to have overshared and then later on wish, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't shared that. Because the more that you expose certain aspects of your life to people, the more entitled that they feel to it. And I always find it quite interesting whenever like big influencers over time start to kind of pull back and not share certain aspects of their lives. A lot of the times, the people that follow them then start, commenting on like, oh, why are you not showing this anymore? People start speculating. And again, like, people start feeling entitled to that aspect of your life, whether it was sharing your kids or sharing your relationship or talking more about your career. The more you share, certain things, people start to feel entitled to that information. And even removing that from social media, it's the same as in your day to day. If you have certain relationships with people, whether it's like your colleagues or friends, and you had this relationship where you spoke about certain things, people are going to feel entitled for you to always share those aspects of your life with them. So if you then get to a stage where you're like, I want to pull back, I don't really want to speak about such and such anymore, they're going to feel a way, in most cases when you kind of shift that boundary. And I think it can then be difficult to start to assert a boundary about something that was quite normal for you at some point. I say all this to say, is social media the problem, or are we feeding the beast? Because even when you think about, let's say, viral content becomes viral when people engage with it. You're never going to see a viral video with 0 comments or 0 shares. The content goes viral, it does well, it gets the numbers, it gets the views because people engage with that content. And I think also, especially if you are an adult, I think for social media and children, that's a whole other ball game, and it's a whole different kettle of fish. But I think using social media as an adult, there is a level of responsibility that you have to have in protecting and safeguarding yourself. And I think it's also knowing about, like, it's also being aware of what your weaknesses are, what your triggers are, and curating your social media to what you want to see and to what is healthy for you. Because it's so easy to be triggered and just to be fighting with people and strangers on the internet. But the thing is, especially with content that is very rage baity, and if you don't know what rage bait is, it's essentially types of content that people create to stir up emotion in people. Whether it's to make them angry, offend them, but the whole purpose of creating rage bait content is to get engagement, is to get people commenting, get people sharing, to stir up, try and create like a viral effect. And a lot of the time there's some content that I see and it's blatant rage bait content. But for me, I'm not gonna engage with it. I literally just skip over it. I may even watch it, but I'm not gonna comment because I know that's exactly what the person wants. I'm not going to exasperate the effect or even help that content to grow by me commenting and engaging with it. So I do think there is an element of us feeding the beast, with us encouraging certain forms of content. And a lot of the times people will create what they know will perform well. People weren't liking certain kinds of content, no one would create it. But at the same time, whether you are a consumer of content or creator of content, we all have a level of responsibility. And I just think it's important for us to be more mindful of what we're putting out there, but also what we are actually engaging with, because we are also, in our engagement, encouraging certain types of content. So I do think how we engage with social media matters, what we follow matters, and how much time we are spending on a daily basis matters when it comes to our social media. What we see is curated, and of course it's not always reality. And I think it's also having a understanding and just coming to that realization as well. And if you know you're not in a good headspace, it's time to unplug. Or if you recognize that you're spending a lot more time than you'd like to on social media, utilizing those filters where you're able to add a set timer for yourself, where you can pause the app. If you need to delete the app, delete the app. Do what you have to do in order to safeguard and protect yourself, because it can be so addictive, especially when you're bored, or you have nothing to do, or you just want to switch off from the heaviness of life and you just want to escape. It's easy to kind of become that thing that we go to by default. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and I actually share this on my threads. If you do have threads, follow me on threads at Your Finance PT. Something I've recognized, especially from my event, is that the last few months, especially, I have been so emotional. Like, I've been a lot more sensitive than I would normally be. And it's so crazy that, well, I've already mentioned that I cried at my event, but I think that was just the tip of the iceberg. I found that there's certain things, like if I'm watching a video on TikTok or it's like a really heartwarming or cute video, I'll be out here crying. And I feel like I'm at this stage in my life where it's almost every other day I'm crying over videos that I'm watching on the internet. And I'm like, is this what 30s is this what a woman in her 30s is going through? Like, what is this? Is this what the rest of my 30s are going to be like? It's just crazy. Honestly, it's insane. But I posted a thread about it asking, women in your 30s, did you find that you became more sensitive, i.e., like crying about things that you normally wouldn't? So many women agreed and were like, yep, that's me. I'm going through the same thing. And I'm like, okay, so at least I know I'm not alone. We're all going through it. There were a few exceptions that said that they were the opposite. But for the most part, a lot of women said the same, like, oh my gosh, like, I am a big softie. I'm a crybaby now. And I wasn't before. Or others were like, I was always a crybaby, but I'm even worse now. And it kind of got me down a little bit of a rabbit hole where I started like Googling, like, do your hormones change in your 30s? And they, of course, do. And it's so interesting because we're all built differently. And something that I'm recognizing as I am, in my 30s now, is that hormones really do have an impact. Like, of course, I knew that, but they really can shape how you feel, how you react to certain things, even like how your brain functions. And for me right now, I'm kind of just trying to figure out and see how I can best navigate this more sensitive, in touch with her feelings me. But yeah, it's definitely something to to get used to, because like crying at my event, I definitely do not want to make that a theme going forward. If you are a woman in your 30s, I would love to know, can you relate? Are you also in the emotional trenches with me, or am I on my own here? I did say at the beginning I had an announcement, and I can already feel that my voice is straining, so I'm gonna have to wrap this episode up. But I really wanted to record an episode because it had been 2 weeks and I'm really working on building back up my consistency. And as part of that, and the announcement that I wanted to drop is that the Pearls and Perils is now on Patreon. Patreon is something that I remember someone asked me this some years ago, like they're like, oh, they connected with me on my book club and they asked, oh, do you have a Patreon? And I was like, no, I don't. And it's something that I never really, I'll be real, let's get real now. You know me, I'm always be real with you guys. It's something that I never considered creating because I thought, why would anyone sign up to my Patreon? But I've decided that this year, as I've been saying, I'm stepping out, I'm challenging myself. And one of those things is creating a Patreon. I've always wanted to build a community, and I think it's going to be a great way for me to be able to do that. And whenever you're charging for something and there's a fee, there's always that, who's going to want to sign up? Who's going to want to spend their money? But at the end of the day, my focus this year is building community. And I know that's going to take work. And I feel like having a Patreon is going to help me to build that community, but also it will help me to create different types of content. And I'm going to put the link to the Patreon in the show notes so you can connect. And what can you expect on the Patreon? Firstly, exclusive content. So I will be posting exclusive episodes on there. I will continue to post weekly episodes that will be available on all podcast platforms, but I'll have bonus episodes that will be available exclusively on the Patreon. So if you do join as a member on the Patreon, you will have exclusive access to those bonus episodes. I'll also have monthly live sessions that will also be exclusively on the Patreon as well. There'll be Q&As, you can ask questions. If there are specific topics you want me to cover, I will prioritize those requests. And also a members only community chat. Like I said, I'm really focusing on building community. So far, I've only just opened it today. We have no members, but join the Patreon. It is £3 a month, and this will just help me to reinvest in building the community. There's other bonuses that I will add, but it's just the beginning. Join the community, join the Patreon. Link is in the bio. It's definitely something that's, for me anyway, it's me stepping out of my comfort zone. But we're doing the scary things this year. My voice has definitely been stretched. So I'm gonna wrap this one up. Thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I will be back next week, and hopefully by then my voice will be back to normal. I won't be sick anymore. I'll be 100% back to normal, and I can talk freely without being restricted. But until then, I hope you have a great rest of your week. If you aren't already following the Pearls and Perils, do follow the podcast. If you're able to like it on the platform you're listening to, then like the podcast as well. And if you enjoyed this episode, do share it with a friend. Don't forget to lock in and head over to the Patreon. And I can't wait to have you as part of the Pearls and Perils community. I will speak to you in the next episode.